Welcome, everybody. Today is the 23rd of May, your Dallas Personal Robotics Group Builders Night Virtual. Online, we'll go around the table with questions or things to show or just random discussions generally related to robotics. If you're not familiar with the setup, we do record these and publish on YouTube. So the simple rule is if you don't want to be recorded, either put something in the chat, we'll pause the recording, or mute your microphone and your camera. But other than that, we found people like to view the videos each week. So we have tonight a queue started with Mike and Brady and Arun, and then after that, open mic. So with that, Mike, what do you have? What's going on?
Well, I put my robot in his box where it belongs. And
from the competition?
Huh?
From the competition?
Yeah, right.
It was a cool robot, by the way. Yeah.
It went past his lifespan. So it was starting to fall apart. And I'm going to resume a project I've been working on, and that is a theatrical lighting project. So basically, this is you can plug in DMX lighting from the theater control with the lighting console, and this will send signals to the Zigbee signals to regular Zigbee light, remote control lights. And it's built with a Raspberry Pi and an Arduino with a DMX, what do you call that, hat on it, shield on it, I guess. Can't remember the name. And so my project on this is to make this DMX interface optically coupled, because it needs to withstand, shocks from long cables, when people are hooking it up. And so I'm going to build my own circuit board, combining the Arduino board and then this DMX shield onto one board. And I'm going to build it with the Raspberry Pi Pico, because it decodes the DMX commands real well. And it's small and easy. And so I'm going to have a schematic of the board, and I have it laid out, and this is to scale. Yeah, so, and I use it to scale to put the components on to make sure that all the libraries were correct. And this is my bag of parts. So when I get back from my Portland, Oregon vacation, I'm going there for a month. I'll be working on this project. And when I'm going to Portland, I'm taking the brains out of my robot, which has the IMU in it, and try to, when I have some spare time, because I'm going for a whole month, so I'm going to have downtime. So I say, I'll do something intellectual, and I'll try to get the IMU working better by just taking the brains with the IMU built in. But I do have a robot question. I want to tackle robot vision, and I'm thinking OpenMV is a really good choice. And there's a new camera system that's not available yet that you can pre-order. I was wondering if anybody, what's their opinions on it versus other ways of doing the robotics vision.
Yeah, I'd say if you're, it's kind of like you can use Raspberry Pi and OpenCV, but there are some examples out there, but the guy I think it's two guys that designed the OpenMV series of cameras. They have a great IDE. They have tons of examples. You can do a lot more with it, for the cost than you can do with any of the Pixie cams. There's kind of a Chinese knockoff that was kind of a close competitor that's it used boy, I forgot which processor this was. This is one of the Max Pi boards, and you could get it either with or without, a Wi-Fi link. Let's see, SciPe. Oh yeah, this is based on the K210 processor, and it does pretty good. But it's reasonably priced. It was only like $30. Well, it's still only about 30, under $40 now, I think. Anyway, in the 30s. But the IDE isn't as advanced. You get very few examples. A lot of the stuff is kind of roughly translated from Chinese, so you kind of get what you pay for. The OpenMV cameras are, they're very fast. Yeah, I read, I forget what his name is. It's like Aguilar or something like that. One of the main guys that, has created those cameras. He's changed the processors because he couldn't get the ST processors so now it has like an NXP processor on it. He's going with cameras that have much more dynamic range. So, instead of, having it just work inside and more controlled lighting conditions, it's going to work better outside, because when you get, say the sun in an image, it just kind of blurts out the whole camera, and you get this, it just kind of overloads the sensor. And with that higher dynamic range, it's going to be able to tolerate, a larger range of light intensity. So I think they're supposed to be like $130 now.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Let's see. I know Carl has one, right?
Yeah, I was going to show you this as a sample. So this is the one I had in Robo Columbus, and it's the OpenMV H7 Plus. And what I like about it is that everything Ray said, but also they've got and the IDE is especially nice. I mean, it gets you going quickly, but the processor on board is a Core 4 or a Core 7. So it's a decent enough processor that you could actually run some. You could drive the robot from it if you wanted. I think just from analysis.
Oh yeah.
But it also has like a bunch of daughter boards. So for example, this is the daughter board with the display. I don't know if it's showing very well.
You can mount the display on the back side of it if you want.
Yeah,
an LCD display. And it does slow it down a little bit, but
yeah, I don't know what it's griping about now, but you can see my hand waving from the camera, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
a little bit.
So what's super cool, what I really like about it is that not only can you work on your vision pipeline in the IDE and play around with it on a cable and a tether, use your laptop display to see what's going on. But once you get your pipeline sort of baked in, you can put test points in the optical pipeline, and you can superimpose those test points on top of the display. So, for example, when I drive this around, I want to see how it's doing outdoors, what it's really seeing. I just point it and I look at the display, and it has a nice little it has a bounding box. It has a centering crosshair on when it sees an orange cone. I have a different style of box to show one thing or another. So you can show a lot of visual information just at a glance without having to have the tether to the IDE. So I like those things a lot about it.
Yeah, it does. It does. With the LCD, it does slow it down a little bit, but still,
I'm sure it does. But yeah,
I guess it has lots of power. Yeah, I guess it could actually run AI if that all comes to fruition. On that
I wouldn't doubt it, but
Yeah, and he's I think it was more the H7 Plus that was set up to do AI stuff, and I just have the H7, not the pluses. I've got two of them, and it was kind of in that period when he couldn't get the processors, so I don't think there are any more H7 pluses out there. I don't even think you can buy one if you wanted.
There's a few,
Oh, is there?
but it's at end of production. So yeah. So I was thinking if I'm gonna get one, I'm gonna get the new generation that will be supported
right.
time.
One of the other things you can attach different camera sensors on it, which you cannot do that with the Pixie Cam. Like I've got this one is that I have on there currently is a rolling shutter. There's a black and white global shutter, which depending on if you have enough light, which indoor lighting, if you have enough light, you can get really high frame rates. Depending on what you're doing, you can get frame rates up to like 200 per second, which is, you may be a tenth of that with the rolling shutter. They also have an infrared sensor that you can put on the front of it. It's kind of coarse. I think it's only, I want to say it's 160 by 80. But it's kind of nice to be able to interchange it.
You could write
thing
that's dark.
Yeah, you could see in total darkness, and it's kind of like whatever wavelengths, animals emit or humans emit. I think it's much lower than like infrared from infrared lasers in that, those kind of wavelengths. There are several things that you can, several little boards that you can attach to it. The lenses. The Pixie One had an M12 lens that you could screw off, and so you can, there's like a host of these lenses that you can get from telephoto to very wide angle. This one's a wide angle one because you can kind of see it's domed.
Yeah,
but
your ring camera, your doorbell camera.
So that's kind of nice that you can interchange lenses in it, and if you want to mess around with the field of view of the camera. So whereas these other ones, these ones are, they're fixed. You can't replace that or change it. And,
I want to make this an investment, so I think it's a good investment then to invest in the OpenMV, right?
Yeah, I don't know of anything else. I mean, for the price, the OpenMV H7s, not the pluses, were like $65. The new one I think is going to come out at $130, but even at that, I don't know of any other camera that competes well with what it does for that price.
Okay.
And it's all embedded, right? That goes with what I like about it, in that you can you don't have to fiddle with managing an OS on a Raspberry Pi. All that's taken care of for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do the pre-order before they all run out, because they only have like 2,000 total for the initial build. So,
yep.
Yeah. And they come. I think they're expecting them to be available in September, August or September.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me time to work on my other project. Yeah.
Yep.
Lighting.
Okay. That was my big question as a direction. It's like, I'm going to try to master vision before I do anything else.
Cool.
And IMU, right?
Yeah, give yourself a few months, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
There's some weird things that go on with vision. I know, like the ones that are the algorithms that you use to do blob recognition. They fix the white, or turn it off, actually, the white balance and any dynamic adjustments to it. Because if you make or allow it to make those changes, then you're looking at different colors or different, colors in the spectrum because the light intensity changed or something. It's very particular about what colors, you tell it to look at, and that kind of thing. So just like minor changes in lighting can throw your camera off if you're trying to go for a certain color. And I think kind of all of us have experienced that with the outdoor contests. We've had to make like polarizers, like these for, to basically reduce the intensity of the light. But if you get in situations where it's, clouds are coming in and out, it can throw the camera off pretty easy. It can be pointing right at your orange cone and not see any orange or something.
You said problems in outdoors. I think there's problems in the indoors too, but that's just from the couple Saturdays ago. I don't know nothing about them.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. It just can be kind of frustrating sometimes because besides color sensors, I was going to use just a color sensor on the outdoor contest, and it's one of Adafruit's, and it basically gave you 6 like bands of different colors, orange, blue, red, green, whatever. And it worked great in the beginning of the summer when the grass was green, but when the grass started to turn brown and orange, it couldn't distinguish between a cone and orange grass, so it's kind of like, okay, that's out, but I was going to go with that until, the middle of the summer where the thing just stopped working. So, but
Sounds like my ultrasonic sensors. Something happened, they quit working.
Yeah. So it can be good. It's kind of the only way to do some things, but at the same time, can be kind of frustrating because it's, still difficult to, and I think, some of the stuff that Doug did, that kind of alleviates that, we're using AI to actually recognize, what a cone would look like in an image. And Doug, why it seemed like that didn't work that well? Was the setup issue or?
No, that it had nothing to do with the vision. That was a robot problem.
Okay.
I was very, very successful, in my opinion, detecting cones. That was not, and the big problem with using the OD Lite is that you got to use a Linux computer with it. But I shouldn't say that. I'm sure somebody could use an STI M7 type thing if they were smarter than me. It's much easier to use the Raspberry Pi type things. Yeah. So now you have all of the problems of making sure the Raspberry Pi is working correctly. But again, that was since the only thing I was doing with the Raspberry Pi was vision. That wasn't a real problem. It was, I felt very, very good, and that will be the path I continue on. So I don't see any, this year I will be using the OD Lite.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. My biggest problem was I didn't get enough practice in before the thing. So that's what you really need. And also I made a robot construction era that when I had to locally, otherwise when I had to change the configure the to Steve's Wi-Fi, I had to literally have to take half the robot apart to get to the port that I had covered with the IMU's staff, So it was just a couple of like, why didn't you think of that? Well, it was because I was at home and I never had to change. I never had to do that. You know what I mean? So if I'd have been practicing down at the park, I would have found that out pretty quick. But the other problem too, my robot, I stretched that base with the superstructure was way, way too heavy. And so it would have run, but I found out later after in post, just playing around with it, that after about 10 minutes, the motor, I could cook eggs on it. You know what I mean? It was or fry bacon. So, even if I'd had, and I found that afterwards pretty quickly. So like I say, getting done early and practicing is the real trick, and that's what David Scott tell you all the time, but what is the queue? I want to get into queue.
Well, so far we have next Brady, then Arun, and then you, Doug.
Okay, good.
Okay. I'm done. I'm going to go pre-order it. So great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, a good, healthy discussion tonight. So Brady, what you got going on?
Well, it's been a lot of changes. I commented here some time back that I was working with some teenagers, and it's hard to talk to like a grandson, even though he's really into technology and whatever, to really tell him anything. So I took the approach of come up with some friends and let's do a robot camp. And we've been doing 2 hours a week for most of a year on that. And it's had kind of mixed results on that. I teach a bunch of what I call Arduino-ish classes at Dallas Makerspace. So I've got a lot of parts and sensors, and I threw in a couple $100 to buy wheels and servos and motors and PS2 controllers and so forth. And from the standpoint of working with them from the software standpoint, Arduino, ESP8266, Pico W, we have had a lot of fun on that. From the standpoint of delivering on construction of a robot, I have been pretty much a total failure on that. So I started looking around on that. It's easy. I see Carl laughing there. It's easy to become a failure in this world.
I got my own little teenage relative thing going on, but yeah.
So I took the approach that I wanted to come up with something that had a particular goal and a challenge to that. And I hate to say the word kit among this group of guys, don't boo me too much. But I looked around and there's a lot of competition stuff out there. The one that got my attention is a FIRST organization. They have two things that fit high schools. One is FRC, and that is what I refer to as the really high dollar thing from the hobby standpoint. It turns out that I found out that over at Rev Robotics, two of the guys there are mentors for FRC programs at Pierce High School in Richardson, which I'm really close to that. So I met with them a couple of days ago, and they just buried me with good information on that. And I guess I was at a weak point. I volunteered to be a mentor on that program. So I'm going to be involved in that quite a bit. On the other hand, the thing that works better for small groups is what FIRST calls the FTC program, First Tech, I think it's competition. And what we did.
Challenge.
Pardon?
It's First Tech Challenge.
First Tech Challenge. There you go. And thank you. I've got 5 teenagers, 4 sets of parents on that, and decided to go with 3 different kits that come together from Rev Robotics. Total price on that is about $2,000. I'm working with the parents. I think we're going to come up with that, reasonably easy, and start with that. So one of the things that works really good with teenagers is to show them some of the competitions. So we're not committed to competition at this point, but my next goal is to, justify the funds and get the parts, which I think we can do. And then as a goal, what we will look at is the competition goals. We'll build up our little simulated board where you move things around and so forth. And we will do everything that we can towards seeing, from my standpoint, what really commitment level do I have here? What can we achieve with them? If we are really good at that, we might go ahead and get into the competition. And when I mentioned the $2,000, you can get in with 2 reasonable kits for like $1,300. The magic comes in the next 400 or so when you get the base with mechanism wheels, and that's the one that just drives the kids nuts on it. So I think we have reason for momentum on that. So that's kind of where I stand right now. I can't believe I haven't been getting in regularly with this group. I'm going to have to start doing that. And by the way, I made the competition a year back, but the other day I wasn't able to make it. So I don't know if you can offer apologies on that, but I get a lot out of this group when I'm around it. So that's my status right now. If anybody happens to be into the FTC program, I'd appreciate hearing from you. But otherwise, we're charging that direction.
Hey, you've got kind of a ringer online here, Brady. So
Yeah, he's in the square next to you.
Yeah. Not only that,
He's in the square below you on me.
yeah, his team is world class. So that'll give you an idea of who you're talking with.
Britain's
What
robot
is
last
this?
week just came back from Globals, which is overseas. And
Okay.
No. We were at Worlds. We did not get to Globals.
You get the Globals. Okay. I'm sorry for pumping you up more than you should be pumped up, because you should be pumped up even more than that.
So 2 more levels to Galaxy. Is that the thing?
There's only one team from the United States that goes to Globals. And Globals isn't actually a higher level of competition. It's more of a it's more of a diplomatic thing, I guess, because basically you get 1 team per country. So it's like a United Nations type of outreach type of thing. It's still a competition, but it's not necessarily more competitive than the World Championship that's been in Houston for the last few years.
By the way, the Pierce High School team that I'm going to be working with made the world competition in Houston. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going. Otherwise, that's
The
my
FRC team
Carl.
did, yeah. I'll be happy to talk with you at some point offline, Brady. I've been coaching FTC for 13 years now. 13 or 14.
That would be wonderful.
Like
You can't imagine how I'd appreciate that. So we'll get in contact.
Sure.
So Brady, did you say that there were like all kinds of mechanical issues with putting the kits together? Is that where the thing kind of fell apart, or?
No, the thing was that I had a certain amount of that I put into it, and I didn't have really a goal on that. And it was limited. We built this little 3-wheel thing that had a PS2 controller, and we had fun with that. We had a little commercial, really mini $25 robot kit. We played with those. But bottom line is we didn't put enough dollars into it, and we didn't have a really goal in that. And I was, every time I came up short, I would talk programming and so forth, which I loved, but that only goes so far. So having the kits and then having a goal of building a small board, which is kind of like the competition people use. We play with that. We see how we do with that. And if they do really good on that, we come up with a few more bucks and we really sign up for competition. And I think the sign up is in like the September timeframe. So we have time to have a lot of fun before we really get into that.
Okay.
I agree,
So you're talking more
Brady.
about the FCC teams, right?
Yeah, Brady, that's why I think even with our small competitions, they're important, because if you don't have some goal that you're shooting at, sometimes it's hard to see what you're doing.
Right.
I don't, and so anyway, I agree with totally. It sounds like you're on a good track. So.
Well, I'll report back here occasionally and get feedback. I greatly appreciate all this.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I think next we have Arun, and then Doug and Pat. So Arun, welcome. And what's going on? Although your audio.
We can't hear you, Arun.
The Google does not show that you're muted, but we're not hearing anything. So maybe there's some routing, or there you go.
Whoops.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Hey, I'm Maroon. I'm actually, this is the first time, so
Welcome.
I don't have anything to show today. But something that I've been working on now recently was little drones, like the size of the CX-10, something similar to that, around that size. It's a quadcopter. I did have like a small MUPU 6050 unit, and it just has the accelerometer and the gyroscope to it. So just trying to have, I was able to get one drone, the small drone, get working, but something I'm trying to do is to have at least like 5 to 10 drones working together. But I couldn't find a way to actually like get the real-time location of each one of them. But that is something I've been working on recently. That's
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good problem.
For fun, I presume, or
sorry.
is it for fun or for work?
For fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said the CX11 or CX10?
10 actually.
10.
It's actually the diagonal size of each from the motor to motor is currently, I have about 5 inches right now. Just to fit all the, I did have a little bit extra space left over, so if I want to add the components later, then I can just add them.
So you're looking at, it sounds like you're looking at real-time positioning then.
Correct. Yeah.
Indoor or outdoor?
Indoor, actually.
Yeah, sounds good. I guess I'd have one suggestion, and that is start off with 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't try to shoot off with 5 to start with, because whatever you can do to 2, you can probably scale up without any problem. And obviously, I'm not sure exactly how they do that, but if I were to assume how they do that, I would assume each drone reports its own location through its own IMU, and then some master drone, or maybe they're both the master drones, but they communicate between themselves the different positions, and then they work that way. So anyway, I don't know. I just saying, but start with 2 instead of 5 or 10. Do you have, by any chance, do you have one you can show us in the show us?
Actually, so I actually took it to my friend's house and I left it over there. So
Okay.
we did have a couple of units. So probably
cool.
I'll get it next. I can show it to you next time.
That'd be neat.
My first idea is to maybe put a LED light on each drone and use optical cameras to track them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's another way. Yeah, you're right, Ted. I think that's the way the ones that all do that they always do in the
like
in the big gym, in the gym where there's a big swarm doing all sorts of stuff. I believe that the actual location is tracked by somebody, something looking at it. Do you know how they do it? You've seen these drone, instead of fireworks, they're drone fireworks, I guess you'd call them.
Yes.
Where where the drones do big patterns and they're all
Mhm.
colored up. Any idea on how they do that? Anybody?
So I think one of the outdoors that I've seen, they actually use like a GPS,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't find anything for indoor. Uh, but for outdoor, they have like a GPS. They have a local station that like kind of tracks it in real time.
Okay.
I think it's
So maybe GPS RTK or something, local
outdoors.
station.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah,
For
that's
outdoors,
right.
GPS
For
RTK.
outdoors, yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for indoors, it's like one or multiple cameras to provide visual references. I've seen, and then the other ways I've heard of are like they involve beacons, RF beacons, so they'll triangulate that way. And I think
Okay.
like one of there might be another way too, where how did it work? Do you remember when Ron Grant showed his really fancy 3D immersive goggle
Yes.
thing? So we have a member who has a high end like gaming thing, right, where you can hold the wands and you put the 3D goggles on and maneuver in virtual space. But his unit, instead of just relying on gyros and accelerometers and the headset IMU, his system, I mean, I guess it had that, but it also had the ability to triangulate between these, I think it was 3 like large on a pedestal things he'd put in the corners of the room.
Mhm.
And with that system, I want to say that it shot a beam of light somehow. I don't know if it was time of flight, but somehow those 3 things were able to give a pretty precise location in space for his
Okay.
headset.
That was really cool. You could be anywhere in the inside of the beacons, and so you didn't have to like stand in one place and do stuff.
Yeah.
You literally could move around
all over.
Yeah, it's just
I think it was a
Interesting.
pretty expensive system, but so many options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look into it. Thank you. Would you happen to know like any is there like anything that's available or
Well,
what was it?
we could send a note to him and ask. Like if you want to put your email in the chat or something, we can.
Not in, okay, we can pull it out later, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but we can send you an
and-
introduction or something, and
Another one that I believe a lot of the initial work was done at MIT, wasn't it? So they probably, I bet I think on their website, they probably, if you went drones MIT, you might find something there too.
I mean, there's
Okay.
From what I understand, there's a ton of, it's a big field of indoor navigation. Because, on the one hand, you got all the way from how do emergency responders find a person who's dialed E911 from their cell phone, but they're on the 9th floor of a building, because traditional GPS systems don't do elevation very well. So all the way from that to like there's a cave collapse. So or a building is collapsed. So how do the emergency workers send a remote thing inside to navigate around an area where it's really not anything but a controlled environment? So how do they position themselves? How do they build a map? How do they know where they are? There's an awful lot of work done on that. So I think you can get lost in the rabbit hole quickly if you want. But if you want to send a note in the chat or something, then I can hook you up with Ron, and we can find out the system that he used. But
Okay.
All I remember is that it was kind of high end.
Yeah.
With high end performance. So. Well, cool. Well, welcome aboard. We look forward to following your project. If we can help, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Always
I'm looking forward to it.
Always open to live vicariously through other people's projects. And there's a lot of experience here to lean on too. So cool. Okay, cool. Well then, if there's nothing else, I think we had Doug in queue, then Pat, then open mic. So Doug, what's going on?
Okay.
Recovered from the contest? Have you recovered from the contest?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Well, for the last 2 weeks, we started off with Kareem doing us some chat GPT. And then we had last week, it was Carl who did some chat GPT. And in that stuff, a couple of our guys asked, and I'm not sure who they were. It might have been Mike. It might have been Doug. I don't know. Somebody said, well, no, it wasn't. It was David. It was David. And he asked, well, can you program your robots using ChatGPT? And so I said, well, that's an interesting question. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. And when your eyes start to bleed, just cut me off, okay? All right. So I'm going to go. The first thing I'm going to do here is present. All right.
This could be known as the Chat GDP.
Well, okay. All right. So I decided, yet last week I showed the ultrasonic sensor with our unipixels I was kind of thinking, but I had the sensor out, and I said, okay, so instead of trying to program the whole robot, let's start with a simple one. So the thing was, write a C program to use the Arduino environment that can read an SC-SR04 ultrasonic sensor without blocking the loop. Well, it returned this, which, if you all know this code, this is straight out of the Arduino examples, I believe. If it it uses pulse in, it blocks the loop, so it doesn't do what I asked. All right. So I asked, the last response blocks the loop with the pulse in function. So then you can see what it did here. Now, let me make sure that So here it said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use interrupts. All right, that sounds good. And so he uses, as you can see, 2 and 3, those are external interrupts. And he has a little handler down here. But I didn't really want external interrupts because I usually use those somewhere else. So I asked it, can we use a pin change interrupt instead of an external interrupt? Well, you can see here, I didn't realize these external interrupts were also pin change interrupts. That was like a duh moment for me. But anyway, but you can see here that it is now changing the echo pin to it's configuring that interrupt for the echo pin, which in this case is 3. All right. And he's coming up with a vector here. Now, so at this point, I said, well, can we shorten the ISR so that there's no variable larger than an 8-bit interrupt? So now this is actually what I was really going for here, was to try to prevent the problem that when you have an interrupt that is bigger than the native size integer of the processor, there's the possibility of another interrupt occurring in between the transfer, and you end up with incorrect. Okay, so this was a bad prompt. I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said this, but I did it anyway. So it goes in here, and let's see what it did do. So it changed. This is just the thing, and you can see all it did was it took the start macros, which would be normally a long, and turned it to unsigned 8-bit. And in theory, this would work if you only had a change between your starting micro measurement and your end micro measurement that was less than 250 microseconds long, which, that's not going to happen. So that was, I realized I was in a dead end there. So, I was just curious, what would it say the maximum distance it would read with that previous code? Well, it wasn't smart enough to know that it would overflow that 8-bit integer. And, it just told me that it could normally go up to 400 centimeters or 4 meters. So, and just for my own clarity, I just had them do the complete program, blah, 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 blah. And then I hit something and I said, okay, this is when I said, instead of using interrupt 8 and 9, which is pins 2 and 3, I told it to use, instead of using the pin change interrupts 18 and 19, which are pins 2 and 3, I told it to change it over to the pin change interrupts 8 and 9. And, this is interesting. It didn't do it, up here in the top. I still got the trigger pin 2 and the echo pin 3, but it did change it down here, but it made them both pin change interrupts. Okay. And that was because so we actually stepped back here, because the only one you need is the echo pin. You don't need the trigger pin to be an interrupt. Okay. So this was a case where a bad prompt did what the prompt said, but it wasn't what we really wanted. Okay. So then I went down and I said, this version has defined trigger. So it had two problems. It never changed it up here. It did change it here, but it changed both of them. So I asked it, this one defined the trigger points as 2 and the echo points as 3 incorrectly. So now you can see it's fixed that problem. Okay. But it still has both of them being put as a pin change interrupt. So then I asked it, can you change it so that only PC interrupt 9 is part of the pin change interrupt? Yeah, and certainly. Now, this layer of the code, okay, so now I asked it, would be workable, okay? So at this point I said, use a local variable to transfer the duration from the ISR and stop intervals when transfer is done. Okay, and here you can see that, okay, so if we look at this, it's not blocking. Here's your while loop of the rest of your loop. And it's also went in and disabled the interrupts, transferred the local variable, and set the interrupt. So that's correct. Everything's cool here. And I want to say, so let's see what it is. Oh, and then I went back and fixed that 8-bit micros to be an unsigned long. And then what did I do? And then, so at that point, I said to myself, well, you don't really need a long. You can do it with their, unsigned interrupt of 16 bits would be long enough for the beginning and the end to not really change. All right. So I said, let's go ahead and do that. The long would have worked. There's no problem with that. But this one means you don't have to change 2 of the bits. All right. Okay. And then here I just changed the baud rate. And okay, then here I said, now I want to know how much time is actually done in the while loop, that's where the measurement is spent in the while loop here. Where is it? Find it, Doug. this while loop here. So it added a start time micros and an end time. That doesn't need that, but I put it in, I asked for it and they gave it to me. So now, if you'll bear with me here, let's see, make sure I'm on the right one. Yeah, this is it. So if I go up here,
Okay.
and
I think I saw some unused space on your main screen there. You don't have enough icons on it.
oh, I hope you're not seeing that. You're seeing this, aren't you? Did you see?
Yeah, it flashed up there for a second. But,
okay, now. Oops. Okay, that's the wrong one. Let me see why. I'm having a little bit of issue with the Arduino serial monitor, and I don't usually use that. So let's see. Okay. All right. Anyway, so right now it's reporting 14 inches on my, and I'll try to aim it at this. Okay, so can you see me? If you pin me on my camera, you can see, here's the setup. There's the Uno, there's the little sensor, and it's aimed at this block right here. Okay, so anyway, so the question is, all right, so we made an unblocking HC-SR04 ultrasonic sensor. We had ChatGPT actually program it. So the next step, I said, well, that's cool. Let's try something a little bit more.
So is this the version 4
Huh?
or the 3.5?
This is 3.5. This is just whatever
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
It felt very 3.5, the
Yeah.
process that you went through.
Yeah, well, you got to remember there's two things going on here. One, it's me learning how to do this.
Sure. Yeah. Same thing.
So, this is the second one I did, and you'll see this one is a little more, the prompts are a little more smarter. So this is write a C program for an Arduino Mega 2560 that controls 2 quadrature encoders, one each for 2 DC motors using pin change interrupts. Do not use pins that are external interrupts, SPIs, SPI or I2C or serial related. Okay, ka-choom. So I dropped this out. All right, so you get 2 interrupt service routines, one for the 0 through 8, and I think this is from 17 to 24. It picks 18 and 19, and then it used 2 and 3 again, which is what would be in this second one here. And the problem with that is it is an external interrupt also. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really follow what I was asking it to do. So I said, okay, do not use these pins. Oh, what a bad prompt. So it used 4 other pins. Okay. So
your other serial pins, right?
Yeah, well, it's just not, let's not go there. And so I said not to use it. It took me a little while to figure out what I was doing wrong. And I think this is where I got, first of all, I named the pins, the pin change pins by their correct name. So this is port K0, port K1, port K2, and port K3. All right, so I actually picked these pins. And you can see now it got them correct. And let's see here. Okay, now there's a mistake here. That I think okay, this one may have worked, but I went ahead and decided to change them to actually off of 2 different ports. This was me just looking at the Mega and saying, well, I'd like to use these pins. Okay, so now it's put them on, and so we're on 2 ports here. We're on the K port, we're on the B port. All right. And somewhere I asked, I guess, about the differential motors. So it's actually giving me defining control pins for that. And then two interrupt processes. Here's the setup. And what it's doing is setting up the encoder pins is in, it's pulling up the resistors, and it's actually changing the mask and setting. This is where the interrupt is actually set in this. So this is cool. This is cool. You know, everything's going good here. And then I thought I'd get tricky. I said use environment in Arduino environment pin definitions, and I don't think it did that right. No, it screwed that up. So I don't know where the problem was. And it also introduced another thing that we'll run into, and I'll show it to you when we get there. I told them it was incorrect, and they changed them around, and that's still incorrect. And so I went back and I said, I told it specifically which pins are what. And it did change that. So it fixed that problem. But one of the problems, remember I told you that we were on pin K, we were on the K port and on the B port. Well, you can see here, for some reason, it's retaining a J port. Okay. So this one, I went back to the encoder pin layout, and it still kept the J pin. So it's not feeling it. And then I went ahead and said, well, this is close enough. I can fix that. Let's protect the encoder 1 count and encoder 2 with local variables. It does that. Let's see here if I can show you where that is. Okay, but it's just transferring them. It's not turning off the interrupt. And I said, turn the interrupts off when transferring to local variables and back to on at the transfer. Now, in this one, I believe it does do that. If I can find it, enable. Okay, it's actually, this was interesting. This is not the way that I normally do things, but it's actually doing it inside of the ISR. So I thought that was interesting. It was kind of an insight to me. So this is where I learned something, okay? Then this was kind of cool. I said, well, how much time and cycles does that ISR take? Let's go back up here and look at it. So here's one, okay? So how long does that take? So it gave me some stuff saying it depends on blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't right. So I said, how many cycles does the ISR in this code take to execute? All right. And then I said, how many clock cycles does this code at Mega 2560 take? Okay. And then I was even more specific. How much does this code take? Okay. So this is I put it in. And this is what it returned to me. It actually told me how long that takes. It takes 16 cycles, which is one microsecond.
Do you believe it?
I believe, yeah, this looks about right.
Did you check it?
I didn't, no, I didn't check it. I don't, but I believe that's right.
I would check it.
Okay, well, anyway, it's pretty cool. The fact that at least it plugged it in. Okay, now this is where I decided to get fancy, and let's turn it into a C++ Arduino library. But I don't want to go there. That one was a rabbit hole that I'm still playing with. But I would want to show you this. So this is the code from up here. It's all dropped down here like this. And here you have, okay, let's see, I got to tool, Serial monitor. Okay, so you can see the encoders now. And I'm going to bring my robot over. Can you see my robot?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm turning one wheel. I'm going the other direction. Turning the one wheel, going that direction. Taking the other wheel and turning it in that direction, going back. So yes, it does work. And anyway, so there's two pieces of code generated on GPT. The question what I would say is, if you have absolutely no idea how to do it, if you just say program that, that's going to cause you some issues. But if you kind of understand what it's going to do, what you need to guard for, you can get it to work. And then I thought, well, why not? Gosh, I wish there was a way to go to the top, but there probably is, but I don't know what it is. So, and I'm not going to show you this one's results, but I want you to look at the code, since most of you have worked with odometry, so you kind of know whether it worked. Write a C program for odometry on a differential robot that has two motors with quadrature encoders. Use the Arduino environment and target the Arduino Mega microprocessor. Okay. And you can see it's got all the things that we would normally look for. It's just encoded. It's assuming you're using an encoder library, which actually is what I do. So I wasn't too upset about that. It talks about how to update it. It gives a loop. So I said, okay. I said, well, let's start it. And then this is another prompt that was probably unclear. When the robot starts, its forward travel should be in the Y direction. Assumed direction is expressed between -80 and 180. And what I should have said here is that the Y direction is 0 degrees. Okay. But, it went in there, and, you can see here it actually corrected for a 90-degree thing. So it should read 180 by -180. If you look at David Anderson's code, the X and Y are different. The sine and cosine would be switched. And I don't know why it always puts it in 9600. I probably should say something about that. So anyway, doesn't look so bad. And then I said that the initial Y, and it made some changes. And I really, see, then I thought, well, hey, let's see if we can make it write it for an L298 motor driver. I might as well, that's what we're going to be using on this little tiny robot. And it did create a motor controller program. It's using the mode that where what is it called? I can't remember. The enable pin is set high all the time, and it's just shifting the what do they call it?
Is it sign magnitude or?
No, No, I'm trying to think of what the pins are named.
Oh,
They're called, at least on mine, they're called INT1 and INT2. So they're just popping those back and forth. So anyway, this actually looks pretty good. And so anyway, kind of cool. So the question is, then I said, let's add a way for the robot to add to multiple locations or waypoints. Might as well, right? And so here you can see it added basically, go forward in the X direction. This doesn't quite make sense because it assumes that, if you went from, maybe I've got it wrong. Otherwise I think he's trying to make a U. All right. But I don't think these would work for that. You'd have to set them up, but at least it has the mechanism for that. And let's see. I don't know if it has a target or not. Yes, here it is. When the target distance is less than 0.5, adjust it. So you see it's actually looking at the target. So does this work? I haven't actually tried it, but I thought it was pretty interesting. And you can see hubris is crazy. So why don't you add PID loops to the motor control? So it does create a small PID loop in it. I'm trying to figure out where it is. Let me see. Right there. See a little PID loop in there. And then I said, well, add integration wind-up prevention to the PID loops. And clamp. It adds this clamp routine. So again, kind of cool. Would it work? I doubt it. But it would be a very good start for you. You know what I'm trying to say? You could use this as a good starting point. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. And like I say, I think the biggest problem is me learning the correct way to prompt something. And my thought is, and the longer your conversation goes with ChatGPT, the more errors that you didn't catch get embedded and continue to grow. Does that make sense? So anyway, I just thought I'd share that experience with you. I thought it was kind of cool. So like I said, I did create a program to run 2 encoders on Omega with pin change interrupts, and also did an HC-SR04 non-blocking routine. So there's a couple of cool things.
Doug, I'll concur that particularly with 3.5, the progressive constraints create problems for it. The deeper you go on one particular line of reasoning, and 4 is definitely a lot better than 3.5 on that.
Well, I'm getting to the. Let me put it. This was a big enough eye opener for me, Kareem.
Yeah.
That I could see maybe 4 might be worth $20 a month. You know what I mean?
You figure what your time is worth and the amount of time that this could save in, even if you're not like taking, I would not rely on it for complete solutions, even though you managed to get it there for, very simple applications. The stuff that I was experimenting with, the examples that was returned in both of the models was too simplistic for the way that we have to implement it, right? With non-blocking code and all of that kind of stuff.
So
it was still an extreme lubricant in a mental lubricant in sort of thinking. It's not even so much that, you know, there was nothing in it in my sessions so far that I couldn't have done on my own. But it did speed up my evolution of some of the lines of reasoning, just because it's like the equivalent of having, it's not the equivalent of having a human to, you know, coder to bounce ideas off of, but it's close. It's beginning to get you know, somewhat close, and it's you know, the rubber duck line of reasoning, or you know, coding, where you're forced to explain what you're trying to do to just a dumb rubber duck. You know, that's useful, and this is that on steroids.
Yeah,
It's a great learning tool.
Yeah, it also provided the way it approached some of the problems, like the interrupt service routine on the HCSR04, I believe, made me think about doing things slightly different than I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that it might actually be better. So I like measuring the time of the code. That's still a pretty good, you know,
estimate.
Estimate. And what it told me was that, Doug, I wasn't going off in the deep end and ending up with something that was going to be way too long for an interrupt service routine. Now, but I was very, you know, I'm pretty comfortable with Arduino. So have I glazed everybody over yet, or can I go a little further?
Keep going. I think we had PID loops for the longest time. Now it's ChatGPT is our new discussion topic.
Okay, am I still sharing?
No.
Okay, let me share one last thing then. If I can.
And Doug, I must say, there should be some kind of strive for incorporating both ChatGPT and a PID loop in the same conversation. That's like a platinum star or something. So
let's see here. Let me. Okay. So
he had odometry too.
And that's 3 top ones. All we need to add is 3D printing.
That's a trifecta, right?
Yeah. Well, I got to admit, one of the things I'd like to do, just because I want to see it now, is I would like to see if ChatGPT could generate a workable solution for a waypoint based or odometry type robot that would be kind of like the base starting point for a lot of people. And if I got that code, I'd see what give it to other people to play with and see what they could do with it. Okay, so
Doug, it really feels like you're on the path to run a ChatGPT Columbus bot this fall. So
let's see. Well, actually, I did think about. Let's think, Doug. Oh, come on.
Like somebody's looking at respirators there.
Which one is it? Oh, it's over here. Okay.
This is going to apply a good thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Pico. Yeah. Okay. So I thought, okay. And this one, again, I can't really tell you if it's right, but I think it would be a good generator. So I went and said, write a program using the Raspberry Pico, using its PIO state machines to read 2 quadrature encoders and return the encoder counts in an array. So that was my prompt. All right. And here's what and you can tell that this is in Python. Okay. So what would I get out of this, even if this didn't work? What I would get out of this is Python syntax, because I'm not a real good Python programmer. I would have no idea how to introduce the PIO program in Python. Okay. And here's apparently the way you do it. So I thought that was interesting. Now I know this means end of a group comment. So I don't know. Does that mean this is all commented it out, or it doesn't, or is it put into this quadrature decoder code? I like I say, I just don't know how PIO how the state machines are programmed, but apparently this is the way it's done. So that's kind of cool, you know. So there's something that would be a big lift for me. All right, and it initiates them, it starts them up, and I really don't know because I haven't tried this, but I thought, so you know, what does Doug do? Okay, how about providing a program written in C of the previous code? Interesting idea. So it adds a couple of different libraries to it. It defines the encoder pins. Okay, that looks good. For some reason, it likes 2, 3, 4, and 5, but that's not the pins I'd want to use. And then now here's how you would do the state machine in C. Okay. And apparently it's an array, and you put all that stuff in there, and then it goes into main, and I'd have to look at all of this stuff up. Looks awful short, so I'd have to, I don't know. But anyway, I'm not, I haven't, I don't know. Wouldn't have been able to get this far in Pico without days of studying the manual and figuring out what the heck it was. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting little routine. Okay. I will, since you guys asked for it, and I'm going to really let you have it. I'm going to go back to the quadrature encoders on the Arduino. And let's see if I can find, this looks good. If we can get, okay.
Yeah, speaking of PID loops and Murray, whatever happened to Murray?
I think his job got, I don't know if, I haven't been to his.
I think he moved from New Zealand to Japan for personal reasons. And
okay.
Yeah, we should follow up with him because we enjoyed being with him for a few years there.
Yeah.
He's still on his Discord server once in a while.
Okay.
Is he still there?
Yeah, I still see him once in a while on there.
Cool. Yeah, I think the world fell apart there during or after COVID for a lot of people. So.
Okay. So remember when we going back, I know this is jumping around, but so here I said I had working encoder code, okay, on a Mega. So I said, well, turn this code into a C++ Arduino library. Boy, that's a real stretch. You know, I have a specific pins, examples and stuff, but let's see if we can make a library out of it. So it says, well, you got to have an encoder controller H file, and this is what it puts in it. And so it sets up the C++. You have a begin function, a get function, and reset count. Reasonable. You know, that sounds, it has some private, the pins are private, and so is the count. Again, reasonable. And it creates the C program of the library, has the different functions in it, and it actually has the ISR. Now, let's see. And okay, so I must not have looked at this very carefully because I said, add a function to clear the encoder values. Well, it has one already, which is called reset. All right. So it adds one, clear. And if you look at it, clear is simply reset count. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, and then now I got ambitious. Change the library's code to use pins with pin change interrupts. Okay. Well, it changed the mass, but I believe it did it. If you look at this is only mass 0, and it's only for pins, for these two pin change interrupts, pin 0 and pin 1, and I'm not even sure which ones those are. Hold on, this is a mega. I don't have a very good breakout of that. I don't even know what the ones are. I don't even see them available. Oh, wait a minute. Here's pin 4. I don't know. So I don't know. That looks a little funky there. Okay. But it also handles 2 encoders. Good. And then I said, okay, expand the code to allow both encoder pairs to be from the same pin change port. All right. And then it added this in here. So it's looking at the different ports. Okay. It's still using the mass 0 register, but it's now has something in here where it's actually looking at whatever you called the pin. It's getting set. That specific pin is now being set. You didn't have to tell them what the pin was. Okay, so there's no like we had before. So that's actually an improvement. And then it has all these interrupts for the different port vectors. You have different, if you look at Arduino, if you look at GCC, it has specific names for all the vectors on at Atmel chips, and the pin change ones are all called. So this is more than there is actually, I believe, on the 2560. So, and then I said, well, this code allow you to use different ports also. And then, but anyway, it's starting to get, you can see it's starting to get complex, but kind of following an idea. And can it handle one pin change interrupt and one being on an external interrupt? So now I'm really trying to make this generalized. And that might have been a mistake because looking at them, I don't know. I don't know if my my little cheat sheet it's got everything it should have had on it. So anyway, so then I went ahead, and this was probably a better prompt. Update the cord to handle the following possibilities. Both encoder pins are in pin change interrupts are on the same port, or they're both pin change interrupts but on different ports. They're both external interrupts, or one is a pin change and one is an external interrupt. That probably would have, at the beginning, if I had put that in, it might have had a better chance at doing it. I don't know.
So Doug, did I lose the place? You started out with the Pico, right? And
yeah, so I went back. I ended the Pico and moved back to the Arduino.
Okay.
The two quadrature encoders, and I told it to make the quadrature encoder code a Arduino library.
Right.
Okay. So right now we're looking at it, trying to make an Arduino library, a very general Arduino library for encoders.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it goes on and
Okay.
on. I didn't want to bore everybody. It's like, I think like Kareem said, it's kind of like, and so here it didn't compile. All right. And I actually pasted into the prompt the error codes. And it took those error codes and said, oh, it appears that the static member function, blah, 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 are unable to process the member variables, and it went on and on. But anyway, by this time, I did get it to compile, but I haven't got I've got it where it knows that the encoder the wheel is moved, but it's not following the counts. So it's close, but it's not quite there. So anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that looks very interesting. I'd say, can you give us a handle on how to get started?
Yeah, you just sign in and you
Make a
have
free
to
account.
I think I don't even. I
Yeah,
think
make a
I'm
free account and sign in.
I think since I've been with OpenCV for other projects, I don't think I think I already had an account. Do you know what I mean? So I just sign into that, and it just stays in the background all the time because I use the Microsoft Edge browser for this. And since that's the only thing I use the browser for, except when I'm checking DPRG website, make sure that my updates are right. I usually use Chrome, but Chrome, you think my desktop is crowded? You ought to see the number of tabs that I have in Chrome. So this one is usually kind of a small one, and that's so I use the Edge, and I think it keeps your queries for 30 days, if I'm not mistaken. And supposedly down here, there's a way to export. If you look it up, there's a way to export these to something. But what I actually do is when I think I've got something close, is I just copy it into Notebook++ and then create a project, either Arduino environment, which is because I'm playing around, or open, what do you call it?
Platform
IO, or so whatever. So
there's also a Chrome plugin called something like GPT Share or something like that will let you it'll scrape the page for you and then save it as a URL that you can share with other people.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to look that up, Kareem. I'm not, like I said, I'm just an infant in this. So
I only started 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So but what is really cool, like I said, you learn by your mistakes, and I guess this is like talking to somebody, it does what you ask it to do. So sometimes that can be a really, really short sentence. Like this, add a function to clear that was all I needed. And it was redundant, but that was all that needed for it to work. And then other times you have to be like, when it didn't compile, I had to put in all of the error codes. Okay. Now maybe there would have been another way to do that, but that seemed to work because the next version compiled,
So Harold had raised this question a while back, and then I have a question after Harold. Or Harold, you raised your hand. Is that whatever you raised your hand about still valid?
Harold just wants to see the blinky light. SR04. That's all. Right, Harold? You didn't see it last week.
I think he might have dropped. Waited too long. Okay.
Okay.
Then I had a question too. So in terms of getting refined answers, all the examples we've seen tonight in the last few weeks seem to be pretty much the same conversation thread, just on and on and on, except for Kareem's case where he showed 3.5 versus 4 for the same general starting prompt. So the question I have for you guys that have, lots more experience than me, which means 2 weeks, have you ever tried the case of having a conversation on a topic and then learning from yourself, like what kinds of prompts did better than others, and then saying, okay, screw it, and starting a new conversation thread with a much improved prompt over what you've previously tried?
Carl, I was actually planning on doing that. I haven't done it yet, but it seems like, at least on 3.5, that does seem like a logical thing to do. But remember, what I found is like sometimes, even though you said it very specifically, it's like it ignores that phrase or that sentence of your prompt. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So
Kind of seems like you have to make a mistake to get it going.
No,
In the right
I don't.
direction.
No. Well, I think you have to look at what it comes back with. Like, for example, if somebody were to say, Doug, okay, what are some things you can do? One thing you should do is you should always use the port pin. Do you know what I'm saying? Port pin name, as opposed to an Arduino number, pin number, because the port pin names are very useful, and it seems to be able to follow those very easily. So that's an example of the type of thing that you can do. Like I said, if you didn't compile, adding the error messages to the prompt seems to be the right way to go. Okay. Let's see. You can expand, like here I took code and I said, write an Arduino library from it. Well, I didn't go, I took that, I actually asked it to convert previous code to that. So would it have been better if I'd have just said at the beginning, do an Arduino? I don't think I did that on this one. I think this one's, yeah, this is the one where I got so far and then turn this code into C++. Above this, I had actual working program. And then here, I went ahead and asked it, well, now that it's working, go ahead and do this. But the working program was tied to 4 specific pins. And what I wanted in the library is it to be more general. And it accomplished it. Like I say, I think it gave me a framework. And like I said, right now, at the end of this conversation that I had, I could detect that the wheel had been turned, but it wasn't counting it. So I feel that problem is probably solvable, but it's probably me solving it. Now, I don't think I can. Maybe I might get something from, I might see something and be able to ask ChatGPT to fix it. But right now, I think me looking at the code and saying, well, okay, here's where it went screwy. Because remember, I told you there was like in one place it got fixated with port J, and when our pins were on port K, and it just would, it did, it could be that simple. I'd have to look, and in a general library, you can't tell it what port. It has to be able to go through some sort of logic tree to find the port that your pin is on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and let Pat get on with his.
Cool. Well, we did have a briefly, sorry, Pat, but Brady, you raised your hand. Was that for a?
It's for a comment. Somebody mentioned getting started with ChatGPT. One of the education sites that I really like is Udemy, Udemy, and their stuff is often, fairly high priced. But if you check back a day or two later, it's like $10 or so. They have a couple of Chat GPT classes on for a couple of days that are like $9, 10 hours or so of lecture on that. Signed up for it, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. Other thing I wanted to mention is my best news item on AI in the last few days has been an A&M professor that dumped the theses of all of his students in and said, "Did AI write this?" I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, "Did AI write this?" And it said, "Yeah, I wrote 3 of those." So he put the graduation of 3 students on hold. It looked real sticky until one of them dropped his thesis from 20 or 30 years ago in, and it said, in effect, "Yeah, I wrote that too." So I just thought that was funny. That's
Yeah,
all I
yeah.
have.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I say, let me put it this way. I occasionally write reviews, and one of the things you learn is you can't be wishy-washy. You have to, and Chat GPT is not wishy-washy. Otherwise, it says,
He was very confident.
yeah. And so you have to realize that it's the ball face perfect. It's the perfect poker player. No, the face, you never see any cues.
It's all
No,
facts.
it
It only
doesn't
gives facts.
yeah.
It always ever gives facts. That's it.
Yeah. Anyways, so I guess what I was trying to accomplish with this was to answer the question that was asked a couple of weeks ago: is could usable code, like hobbyist robot code, be written with Chat GPT? And the answer, I think, is yes, it can, and I think it can really help you get stuff that you don't really know. It can get you there, but the more you know about the problem, the better you're going to see where it's kind of off in the weeds. Now, yeah, and I would encourage everybody to give it a shot. And you can, just one of the things that I haven't done that would be cool is, because I'm not sure if this would be, no, my stuff is all hobby stuff, but if you took your code and you put it in GP Chat and said, does this code do this? And it can't see what its answer would be. So there's it's kind of like you can look at this from a lot of different ways to try to get information. And I just think that it's pretty cool, and it's free. So you really can't get much freer than that. And Kareem says the 4 is better. I'd like to. I don't know if they have like a 1 day or 14-day trial period or what, but it might be worth finding out.
No, they don't. But
Kareem,
the 3.5 is your trial.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but you can cancel after a month, right? So you can put down $20 to just try it and decide for yourself whether it's worth it.
And you think it's worth it?
Yeah. I can't. It's like to me, this is an essential tool going forward. Pretty likely.
And it's also good for just, even though it doesn't supposed to be a really search thing for things, but like I was trying to hunt down.
It can search now. If you're, again, that's a paid paid level function, but they have plugins now, and they have a web search integrated.
Okay. I was able to find Spectrum's contact number, which I couldn't find. And there was also, I was able to ask it about, like, how could I separate provider problems from internal router problems, and I got a pretty decent answer on that. So I just so there, it's useful just for general stuff too.
Cool. Well, Doug, good deal for carrying the ChatGPT banner. Pat, you've been very patiently waiting. Or do you have another ChatGPT session? Can we get started for another?
Well, I was going to present exactly the same thing that Doug just presented. He stole my thunder.
That's a good thing I went first then.
No, my question is very much unrelated to ChatGPT.
Okay.
It has to do with the line following contest that you guys run occasionally.
Okay. Yeah.
And the course layout. So you guys, I understand you get a vinyl banner printed somewhere.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if you had any info where I could get that. I know I was looking around up here in Canada, and any of the places I looked at for printing on vinyl were very expensive.
Ooh, maybe things have gone up. We had locally, it was pretty cheap.
Like I'm talking in the hundreds of dollars for like an 8x10 foot something.
Well, so we were, Pat, we have there's the printing shop we use, and I'll put the GitHub link in here in a minute, because we list the vendor instructions with the course SVGs. Okay. But as I recall, this vendor has 3 physical locations around the US, and they do all kinds of commercial stuff. And at the time, I remember $1.47 per square foot. They would print it, and it would show up on your door within a day or two here. Of course, okay. The one we're lucky because one of the shops happens to be 30 miles away. But
yeah, I'd probably get it sent to like Sioux, Michigan or something where I can go pick it up.
I would think so. Yeah,
and the postage would be much cheaper through that route.
Yeah. Another thing, Pat, is if you don't have to do a super big course. You can do I have elements of all of those different courses on a much smaller format so that they were cheaper to make. And the ones I have are actually up on that GitHub too. So the GitHub has full courses, but it also has some like test practice courses. You can look at them and see if that would do your job.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm looking for, is like a practice course to say.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for is essentially, well, can I solve one? But latency in my program as well. So when you're running, does it recognize that it has to make a turn, but does it blow past and screw up?
And you can always
cheap in Canada.
Pardon me?
I said, is foam board cheap in Canada? Doug Dudgeon has
He has a foam board. Yeah, but you need to be an artist.
You can probably print it out at your local print shop on paper and just glue it to the foam board.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking, obviously, okay, you saw the board that he had.
Yep.
My wife painted that for me. You just draw the squares one square at a time. It's pretty simple.
Isn't each little piece started out
what I get something like this? And
I tried using 1 foot squares, and then it was easier to use like
inside,
like 4 foot squares.
Comes like this.
Okay.
They fit together better for letting the robot run over them.
And I don't know which one this is, so it's what it is. This is looks like it's a black on white, white on black test course. So that's 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 blocks, and the blocks are what, 16 inches? What are they? Well, do you remember? They're 12, aren't they?
They're 12-inch squares.
Yeah.
But that's an example of something that you can do. You don't have to have a big one,
Yeah, I thought about like painting it onto floor tiles.
It sure is nice because when I put it all up, it's Doesn't take much space. And I have about 3 or 4 of these.
Hey, Carl, was the challenge
different
course
things.
actually 8 feet by 12 feet?
I want to say it was 7 by 13, but
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just posted the GitHub repo, the section of that which lists the line following sets of files, and in the README is a link to the printer that we use, stickersbanners.com.
Okay, yeah, I see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
they've been,
$1.47 at 7 by 13, that's $133.77 without tax or delivery. So,
well, that,
I was still looking at like $400.
yeah.
Yeah. I think you'd also want to look and see if their prices have gone up in the recent inflation. You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
add
and I think
20%.
they have instructions in there. They're custom vinyl banners where you can choose whatever dimensions that you want within, constraints. And right now, I don't remember if now it looks like they've gone up to $1.99 a square foot.
Ooh.
But I mean, that's not that much more. And the smallest they'll do is like a 2 foot on a side, and the biggest they'll do is 50. So you could do a 2 foot by 50 foot banner if you wanted.
No.
Yeah. So
No, I was looking at like 4 by 5 or 5 by 6 or something, and for a test run course that they could fit easily into a room that you can go through the various corners and angles and whatever, and see how the robot does, and use it for testing all sorts of different things as well.
Well, another thing you might want to look at, Pat, just because it was a real good training tool, is Ron Grant's line
Simulator.
following simulator. It is well worth an exercise. Carl used it on the advanced course, not advanced, challenge course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used it on the beginner and advanced, and it was, you learn a lot. Like where to start your thing, there's good information there. And,
are you familiar with that one, Pat? It was the first year of COVID when we kind of coaxed Ron into writing it, and then we ran the first contest in COVID online using his
simulator. Yeah.
If you're not familiar with that, we can dig the link out and send it to you as well.
It should be on the GitHub, I think.
It's in his. Yeah.
It's in his, but I think the link is there. I
remember watching that, and I think I was live at the time when you guys were doing it. It was in late in the year, I think.
Yes, I think so.
And I remember watching online, and I thought it would be something good to do. At the time, I haven't. I believe it's programmed in Java.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you just use processing,
which is Java, but it's
yeah.
But there's templates in there you can build on, right?
Yeah.
And now you got ChatGPT. You could just have it ready for you. We'll find the link.
I thought that would be a good one to possibly have, like do a January whatever course in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
A virtual.
A virtual event, and just everybody, hey, download your code, run it.
Well, the problem is that Carl and Chris Netter pretty much killed that one. They,
Well, that only assumes we'd be fired up to do it again.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, So.
You're saying there's no way to raise the bar?
Yeah, there is a way to raise the bar.
They did the challenge course in 18 seconds, which I don't know.
It was pretty fast.
An actual robot.
No, I think it was a minute. I think it was a minute and 18. Minute and 18 seconds. They were. Chris was much less, and then Carl and Ron were within a second of each other. Actually, a half a second of each other. if it wasn't a computer, we would have never known they were different.
Not that anybody keeps score, but
I remember watching. It was very entertaining anyway.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was a nice challenge.
I don't think Scott got involved in that at all, right?
No.
Yeah.
he's too wimpy for that. He wants a real robot.
No.
So, you could easily come in second and avoid all the harassment. So
Yeah.
one of those contests.
Yeah. But well, the thing that was really interesting at the time, I bet if we went back and poked him some more, Ron was working on doing an outdoor Robo Columbus version of it. Now it was going to be 3D and everything, so like, your robot, what it would see, it would be sliding around, and if a cone came into view, it would see it and all this stuff. I don't know. It sounded really cool, but I think he got pulled off into that real world thing, where you have to make money. So, but like I said, if we poked him again, who knows? So that was fun.
That was it for me, guys. Thank you very much for the info. I'll take a look through and I'll compare what it is at this end and whether I go to option B and, like you say, doodle onto paper or onto some floor tiles or something.
Well, it's when we started out, we just used 3/4 inch electrical tape. So,
You probably got a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I got a garage full.
Yeah, so I guess that's 2 millimeter.
2
centimeter, 2 centimeter tape.
2 centimeter, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 2 centimeter tape.
It's called 3/4 inch electrical tape here. It's called 3/4 inch electrical tape.
Yeah, okay.
I got a garage full.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have a tile floor that's made of 1 foot squares?
I have a tile floor made of 13-inch squares, and it's a little hard to get up because it's ceramic.
Oh, I guess you could scale it for 13-inch. That's not that bad.
I don't think my wife would like me painting on her ceramic floor.
Yeah,
no, electrical tape.
Pat, did you ever see our original course, how it was made? Let me show you.
They were actually 1 foot, by 1 foot floor tiles, and you could put like a single feature on it, like a straight line or notch or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking of doing. Is to just paint them or tape them and.
These things they used to be $1 a piece, but I don't know what they cost now. And sometimes you'd have to buy a whole box of 24. Their biggest problem is they're very fragile and they break on the corners and stuff.
Okay.
And they probably have asbestos in them because they're so old.
There was always other options. Like I say, I'm heading out next month, and we're going west. And I have, just like I have behind the house here, there's a field. Well, my son's yard is the top is about 3 acres, and it's all field. So, and the grass is always cut fairly short. So, it'll be some good testing grounds for outdoor bots.
Cool.
And there's cows and cow patties and.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
So the cows roam around occasionally. They break away from the neighbor's house and come into the yard. So they'll leave obstacles.
They plant shoe polish, do they?
Yeah.
They plant the shoe polish.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we have open mic night time now. We still have a handful of folks. So, Jack, looks like you're healthy again. Good to see you on board. Do you have some coffee making for us to show?
Kind of.
Yeah.
50% of the time it seems to work now.
All right. That's Well, that's on par with Musk. So you're doing good.
It's like all our robots, right?
That's about what I'm doing. 50% of the time I'm working.
It is pressing cups some of the time anyway.
Cool.
I did also want to show I put the Cadillac tails on the
oh wow.
Oh wow.
You know,
That's classy.
send it for anyone who wants it.
Oh, do you
Very
have the
aerodynamic.
Hey Jack, could you put
Yeah.
that file link in the chat?
On the chat, sure. Once.
Is that on Thingiverse, I assume?
Yeah. Oh wait, actually it isn't. It's on. Should post it on Thingiverse. Actually, I'll just send you the email when I do post it on Thingiverse. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Or maybe post it next week.
Okay, cool.
All right. But I'll get the thing running in a second. I just had to empty all the cups, so that's somewhat good. Just only half of them worked.
Kind of reminds me when I was a teenager, a bunch of my friends had Volkswagen dune buggies. And the car that I got was a 1960 Impala, and it had the big fins on it. And the fins didn't do too well in the woods, you know, where the dune buggies would go, because it would hit the trees on either side. So the fins basically got mangled. So
All right, so let's see if this one works. Now it's just calibrating. Now it's grabbing the, oh, that, okay, that's weird. Gotta restart that. Okay. Oh, okay, guess it was okay. Yeah. Now it's grabbing the cup. Adding the syrup and the technical coffee. Now it's mixing it together. Now it should add a cap, but that's been tricky for some reason. Okay, so it did this time.
Wait a minute. Hey, run it the climate. Yeah, no, like.
No, we lost him.
He's gone.
He wanted to drink it on his own.
You know, the robot unplugged the internet. It wants to take over.
that's
the world.
right. Yeah. Clip the antenna off his router or something. Hopefully we won't see him come back on fighting a fire or something, you know.
I just did a quick check here online. A 4x6 banner for $90 Canadian.
Yeah, not bad.
And how do you find that?
Add tax, it's $100, shipped free.
Is it high?
I find it's a little high for 24 square feet. What I would expect, about double the cost as in the US, maybe.
Bummer.
Electrical tape's pretty cheap, you know.
Especially if you got a barn full of it.
Yeah, garage full.
Yeah.
Did I cut out?
Yes, you did.
Oh.
Right when you said, well, it worked this time, and then
Well, that's
disappeared.
It's good anyway because it ended up not working.
Oh, okay. We thought that it cut out, and you're going to come back and say, "See how well it worked," and you came back.
Came back
Do it
and he's
again,
drinking
do
a
it
cup
again.
of coffee.
All right, let's give it a try. Yeah, I need to restart that one. Okay. Why is it?
With my team, it's always like a set screw is loose.
Yeah. Okay. Seems to be going well so far.
My phrase was loose nut at the wheel.
There, it didn't drop the cap this time. And now it's not going to put it on right either. Yeah. Came close anyway.
Yeah, at least you see it's working some of the time. That's just the way you should start, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should look at that cap, put her on her, and see if is it because you've been using the same caps over and over and over again.
That could be.
You know.
Yeah, that could be.
Or the cups. You could be rolling the tops of the cups too.
Yeah, I don't think the cups are the problem, but it could be overly used caps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it seems like it seems like it'd be hard because you're going up, and you know, you're pushing against the cap. What's to keep the whole stack of caps moving up? Does it somehow separate the bottom cap from the rest of the caps?
Well, it's not actually pushing on the cap. It's just dropping the cap on.
Oh, so that gets put on later.
Yeah, that's what the press on the left is.
Oh, so it's just dropping one cap.
Yeah.
You know, it might be cool is when you drop the bottom, the mechanism that drops the cap, if it also locked the cap above it.
Oh, right. I tried to come up with that, but the lips were so small. The only way that I've been able to get it to work is with the worm screw, and that's been working really reliably up until now for some reason.
Okay, well, I'd check my caps. I mean, those weren't meant to be used 100 times.
Yeah.
So that might be. It could be that simple.
It could be.
Is it my imagination, or is this the first time we've seen a robot running in a while? Isn't there some kind of star for this, Doug?
Oh, I think we'll give Jack a black star, which means that he's made significant progress. How's that? Okay. Right. I'll put you down for a black star. Good go.
Thank you.
Because we do need some people put some stars.
You got to have running robots instead of just this chatty stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Well done, Jack. You're leading the crowd. Good deal.
Thank you.
Okay. Got it.
I spent a day and a half trying to get Raspberry Pi OS running on my Raspberry Pi 4 with a USB drive, only to figure out that I forgot to put the USB quirks statement in front of the command line.txt, which is weird because it would boot up through the boot folder, and then it would crap out when going into the root folder.
Yeah.
And it because the little USB drive adapter, SSD drive adapter, requires a USB quirks statement in there in the config.txt file.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's ran into that before.
I don't. What I've been able to do on mine, the biggest problem I had was getting the proper sector size. It's got to be 512. If you get that, you're golden. And what is it? The NVEM drive seemed to be able to do that without too much trouble. I think that's.
What I found is if I'm running that drive adapter, if I run it on a Raspberry Pi 3B, not a problem. It works all the time.
Yeah.
If I run it on a Pi 4, I need to put in that USB quirks with the manufacturer ID and model ID on.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, since I would never be able to figure that out, so I'm glad mine don't have to do that.
Yeah, and as soon as I put it in tonight, bang, right away it started up.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
All that because usually I would run Raspberry Pi Buster for my ArduCam or for a camera, but I'm running with the ArduCam time of flight camera. It needs to be on Bullseye because it uses lib camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to.
Have you made any progress with that?
Well, I had a routine, and I divided it into 3 sections. So I had a left, center, and a right.
Yeah.
And basically, I was looking for the closest distance on either one of those as essentially an obstacle detection. Are you next to a fence? Are you next to a bush? Are you next to something? So I was making some progress with that, but I was ready to test outdoors. And so I was going to load it up just on a basic Raspberry Pi and with a battery and bring it outside and start taking some pictures and see what's going on, how it's detecting.
Would it be blinded by the snow?
Right now there's no snow. So.
I'm just kidding you. So that's the ArduCam? That's this little booger?
No, that's the other one. It's the time of flight camera.
Oh, gotcha.
So basically to give you a depth field map. And so I'm just trying to load that up and get that ready to go because I want to be able to use that outdoors to detect shrubs, to detect log or whatever laying on the ground.
Yeah.
So, since ultrasonic is no good in the wind, it can be trouble in the wind. So I thought I'd try that guy to see how it would do.
Kareem, have you used those time of flight cameras yet, by any chance, for distance cameras?
Distance cameras.
The ArduCam distance cameras?
No, we've been using just dedicated time of flight distance sensors.
Okay.
That aren't full cameras.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too bad, and they haven't released a non-lib camera driver.
Well, I guess they're looking, saying that, yeah.
They're just saying it's equivalent to whatever it is, V3 version 3 for the cameras, and we're sticking with Raspberry Pi Bullseye, and that's it.
Yeah.
So right now I'm trying to get OpenCV loaded onto my Raspberry Pi. So that's the next one. I've got the driver loaded on it. I'm working on Raspberry Pi, OpenCV, and it just crapped out again.
It's always something,
Yeah. I want to say that somehow I was able to get OpenCV on Raspberry Pi very easily. Just like 2 lines of code, and it puts in all of the everything. You might want to look around and see if just do a web search and see if there's any up-to-date OpenCV installation instructions.
Yeah, Search used to have something like that where it was, he had it so you didn't have to do the 1,000 steps of loading in different things, but
scripts, dockers, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one was pip3 install OpenCV-Python.
Yeah, I thought it was incorporated in like the latest, whatever it is, Bullseye version that there is. I haven't looked at that in a long time, but
no, OpenCV isn't in there anyway.
Oh, it's not.
No, and that's where so trying to install that, and that's where I'm getting the error.
Oh.
So now it could be. Pardon me?
Can you use Chat GPT?
That's a good idea. Yeah, that would be the perfect. What are the instructions? Give me the code I need to install OpenCV on a Pi 3.
Next week.
Pi 4.
For an update next week. If you agree to do that on OpenCV, I agree to do the one I had to get Arduino CLI working with Visual Studio Code.
I could try. I've got Kareem's instructions on how to get started with Chat GPT up there, so it may be a fairly simple one, just to a couple corrections and off you go.
That's one of the other reasons why I like the OpenMV H7. I mean, pretty much it's standalone. Don't have to have a power sucking Raspberry Pi in the mix. I can pretty much do everything on it. I think it draws less than 500 milliamps peak.
So the ArduCam draws 3.5 watts, but 5 volts. So it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not huge anyway, a little under an amp. But the problem is to do with an OpenMV camera, to do essentially stereo camera to give you a depth.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I got it too.
Tornado warning?
No, child abduction in Houston, Texas. I don't know why we're getting it up here, but.
Oh, God. We get them out west, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden you'll find out that, in BC, beyond Canada, a child's been abducted. Wow. Why are you waking us up in Ontario?
Yeah.
Would love to help, but
yes,
the odds are so low.
It's too dark to see the color of the vehicle, so.
Or it's covered in snow, one or the other.
That's funny. I'd never heard BC as beyond Canada before.
Yeah, BC. They're so far west as it stands for beyond Canada.
That's where I hail from.
BC, yeah.
Yeah, Vancouver.
Oh, so been there several times. My kids are right now in Alberta, so I got one that's working in and out of BC, in the oil sector or the gas sector, and then the other one is just working just west of Edmonton. So. But yeah, I heard that a couple decades ago. BC, beyond Canada.
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dave Ackley is going to put his sore leg to bed. See you next week.
Dave, you take care. We'll see you.
See you, Dave.
Yeah, so that's why I'm looking at the Raspberry Pi, is that with the camera, with the time of flight camera, it's a really nice sensor if I can get it working.
Yeah, I've got one of those. I think I probably showed you guys several times the little A010 from Cypede. It's got a display in the back, and it's good for, I want to say 4 meters, which is enough for like an indoor contest. It normally puts out like 100 by 100 pixels for depth map, and you can reduce that down to 50 to 50 or 25 by 25. So, and it doesn't consume much power at all.
Does it work outdoors?
Yes, it does. They show a couple examples of it working outdoors for, a little bit less distance than 4 meters, but that would work.
Okay. I was sort of looking at using just a zone of interest horizontally across the image, so you're not looking at the whole image.
Right.
See if there's something in the way.
Yep. So it's pretty sharp. I can plug it in. Oops, wrong plug.
And the other one I haven't. The reason I wanted to get it tested was, again, my chain link fence problem.
Yep.
So my contest course, if I do the the Robo Columbus involves chain link fence.
Well, you shouldn't get close to the fence, Pat. You know, just stay away from it.
It's in the path. Unless I do GPS waypoints.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool.
that's the image it gives. I don't know if you can see that or not.
It's washed out.
Do you program that, Ray, so that it can give you like 3 output signals? Or
it's got a high-speed serial interface, and it's got a USB connector on it. And there is a GUI that you can use to, manipulate it, make changes, give it commands, that kind of stuff. But
similar to the OpenCV type commands?
They're actually AT type. Yeah. Is that what you said? I didn't hear you.
Like OpenCV.
Oh, no. It's just like simple commands to set the, the pixel resolution, like I said, 100 by 100 or.
Okay. And it just outputs a map?
Yeah. It just spits out on the serial interface.
100 by 100 would be 10,000 points?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd probably do it at 25 by 25, which is only 625 points, which is a lot more manageable. But again, in that, if you want to just look at a line, you just have to synchronize with the stream that comes out of the serial board at like 900 and some odd thousand baud rate or something. That's one of the higher speed baud rates. And you can look at which how many ever pixels you want to look at. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if I can show it or not. It probably won't show up that way. Kind of showing some of the stuff on the wall. It's picking up the door back there. But yeah, it's pretty cheap. It'll do up to like 19 frames a second.
Is that a SiPeed camera?
It is. Yep, the SiPeed A010.
Can you put it at the link in the chat, Ray?
Sure. Anyway, that was another thing that I bought last Christmas and haven't really played around with that much.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of nice. It's separate, it doesn't require a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Just a fast processor. I think you could probably do it easily with an ESP32. Maybe, the Kendrite's even faster, but, an ESP32 or pretty much any of the, the the M3 cores.
Okay. I have an OpenMV M4 camera. So it was the second generation.
Yep.
And the problem is, so every time they're coming up with a new IDE or a new firmware, essentially none of it really works with the old camera.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm trying to do right now an orange cone blob detection with it.
Yep.
To see, can I get it working in, cloudy, sunny, all sorts of different light conditions, as just a standalone sensor saying, hey, here's your cone is at this area.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're doing, just output essentially XY. Or not XY, but an X position in the frame.
Yep. Let's see here. Okay, here's the link.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Sure.
Doug D, you're pretty quiet tonight. Any progress on the steampunk robots?
Well, not as much as I would have hoped. I do have some things put together. I had my battery board, which I'm not sure I showed last time. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I've been getting considerable design help from my wife, who has some knowledge in putting things together mechanically, and I'm more of a programmer. And she said she's got something called ABS plastic that she heats and bends, and she's going to make me replace this with ABS plastic. And we bought some, so that's going to be cool. She says it's lighter weight and it'll do the job better. And in here, not yet held down, I've got the these in place and the bearings in place with the, is this visible?
Yeah, looks.
Yeah.
I've got these are actually going to be used by these motors here to raise and lower the legs. So I've got that part in place, and I was just fixing to tie the motors down and maybe get something ready to go. And then she decided to change how I was going to do my power distribution, so I can't hook up my power to actually test those motors. But I'm making progress. Every day is a little progress. It's not moving as fast as I wanted to, but that's partially because I'm lazy and I get sidetracked doing yard work and stuff.
That's looking good.
I've got to speed up the pace, so I'm not going to make my December deadline. That feels like it's so far away, I'm goofing off, and then I'll get close and I'll think, oh my God, I got to work harder.
Yeah.
I get the same when I'm thinking about robots, yard work or work.
Yeah.
You got to work harder at all of them.
Right. I was tied up for a long time on one of my contracts, but I've got that put to bed finally. So I really should be focusing more on this robot, and I'm going to try to. But the wife decided to do spring cleaning outside, and it's like, okay, that wrapped me up. But she's done with that, so let's focus. Maybe next week we'll have more.
Yeah. Well, you have a breather before the next honeydew surfaces. So.
That's right.
Well, it's cool that she's got the mechanics in work for you. So
yes, she's been very helpful.
Get her into the lab there and help you form the materials too.
Well, she's actually going to be the former for the plastic because she's done it before. And I've been waiting to get her off the yard work so she could do that, or at least show me how to do it.
Cool.
I think it will be more sturdy than the plywood that I had, and also a major improvement that she made to the overall design was I had those batteries up here because that was an open space that I could put the batteries in. And when you close that, that means gravity is trying to pull them down out of those clips. And the clips are pretty good, but gravity could be a problem. So she said, put them down here and let gravity help you instead of hurt you. So that was a good design change that she made. I mean, I sit around for hours and think about what step I should do, and then she comes up with, "Oh, well, you're down the wrong road, Doug. You gotta do this." Like I didn't see it. I was looking at the trees.
Now, is she going to vacuum form something? Is that what you're saying?
Not vacuum form. ABS plastic comes in sheets.
Yes.
And so it will bend so that it'll have a side or a top where I can put my battery things.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think it's very similar to this acrylic piece that we did
Right.
for the Club Robot.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You just bend it into place, and then when it cools, it's very, very strong.
It had some holes drilled for the to help on the bend radius, laser cut holes, I guess.
Yeah. Probably
And then
too.
we had hair dryers to heat it up. And
She has a heat gun that she heats it up, and then
yeah,
she bends it across a straight line, and then you cut it with a saw to make the shape you want before you bend it. Sort of like you cut out paper, and then you bend the paper to be what you want to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it comes in various thicknesses.
Yeah, I have some. I was just curious. I thought when I heard you talk, I thought you said she was going to vacuum form it, and I said, "Wow,
No.
that's cool."
No, she used to she was a PT that worked with children that had wheelchairs and things, and so she used to design things to make their wheelchair work a little better. And she did that for many, many years. And I got her thinking about it again, because now that she's retired, she's like, yeah, I kind of miss it a little bit. I said, well, help me with this robot. It's really got her fired up.
So you must have an industrial strength heat gun to melt ABS. That melts at a pretty high temperature, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how hot it is, but she said she's used it before to bend things and make things work on the wheelchair. So we'll see. They sell bigger ones at Amazon. If hers won't work, we're going for the bigger one. Amazon is my friend.
The next one is a blowtorch, right?
Yeah.
There's always a bigger hammer.
So maybe by next week I will have one in place that I can say, look, this is what we made.
Cool. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. I'd like to see how that's going to come about.
Right.
Yeah. What about the dog head? How's that coming along?
Well, I thought I had it sitting right over here. I must have bumped it off somewhere. Oh, here it is.
Is it modeled after your Yorkie?
No. She
Doesn't
came up
look
with
like
this
a Yorkie.
plan to make these two things go together.
Okay.
And this will be like the eye ridge, and I can put an SR04 up there for the eyes.
Yes.
And then
I see it.
Camera come out. This will be attached on a
servo.
Those telescoping things that you can bend any way you want.
Yeah.
And I bought some corrugated plastic, like 1-inch tube that can cover the neck and make it pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you can kind of adjust the where this is going to actually point. So it looks kind of like a dog head, especially if you put some ears and eyes on it. So it was a pretty cool idea.
Are you going to
stuff working?
Are you going to solder it together, or is it going to be
probably going to put some screws in it?
Gotcha.
Right here where they come together, I'll probably just screw it on either side and maybe strap it down with something. Or I hadn't just worked out the details of that. She got the shape set for me, and it's up to me to actually make it happen.
If you can figure out where the lower jaw is, you could put 2 screws and make it like a Franken dog.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. I keep calling it a robot dog, but technically it doesn't look a lot like a dog. I want it to have some dog-like behaviors, but it's more of a robot than a dog.
You get there. You give it a name. It's got the shape. Imagination fills in the rest. You're good.
Yeah, it's going to run on wheels instead of walking. So it's a robot. It's a rolling robot. One thing I was thinking about last week is I've always planned on I was going to have 4 of those gear motors in the wheels, and
you could have it dispense some yellow liquid. Dogs do that.
These are the gear motors here that I've got because this shaft fits into the PVC of the leg really nice.
Yeah,
and I think they're pretty powerful gear motors, and they go 55 revolutions per minute, and I'm hoping that'll be walking speed at least, depending on the size of the wheel. But I got to thinking 4 motors might be overkill, because then it's going to be really hard to put in a PID loop that says, oh, these 2 on this side need to slow down at different rates and everything. I'm thinking about switching to just 2 motors and then 2 free rolling wheels and make it a lot easier to have a differential.
Yes, that would be definitely an easier robot to build.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I'll have
lighter too, Doug.
Yeah, I've already bought the 4 motors, so now I've got motors for my second robot, or for my. I keep thinking about doing that Mars rover type rocker bogie thing. I might use them in that, but then I have to buy more motors because I'm light.
Are you going to gear the 55, or are you going to just leave it at 55? Because the reason I'm thinking is 55. How big are the wheels going to be?
This is the wheel, and it's probably about 4 inches. So 4 inches, whatever that works out for revolution times.
Well, it's about 12 inches per revolution then.
Right.
And
I haven't done the math. I'm just hoping that it'll be able to do walking speed. I can always not run it at full speed.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, you want it to be able to at least do faster than you want it to do. That
Right.
way you can always cut it down.
right.
You know, it's really bad if you're full max and it's just
Right.
But,
Which is why I decided not to do the raising and lowering thing. Is after I did the math on that, it was going to take a minute of standing there to let the strap lower the darn thing. It wasn't going to be impressive. But I'm feeling pretty good about the aspects of it that I've worked out so far. I'm bad about just kind of guessing at it, and then I'm going to try it, and if it doesn't work out, try to do something else. So I should be better about working out the details of what I'm planning so that I don't waste time on something that's wrong. But you know,
what the motors are 12-volt motors.
yes, and that's actually part of what I'm concerned about. But I'm hoping I'm okay. Is I got 18-volt batteries, and my thought.
Well, that's good because it'll speed them up. Is what I was getting.
Yeah,
at.
and I'm going through that L298N, so that's going to drop 1.5 volts.
Yeah.
So that's going to give me 16.5 max volts for a 12-volt motor. And if I don't run them at full speed, they're not getting more than 12 volts.
Yeah, I think you're probably good.
I think I'll be good. If
Yeah.
I burn a couple of them out, I got.
And you got 2 extras.
Yeah, that's another good reason for having extras. I can say, oh, I thought about dropping that voltage down because I created this, what I call my power distribution board, so that the 18 volts comes in, and then this is a 9-volt converter for the make the Arduino work. This is a 5.2 volt converter to make the Raspberry Pi work. And I had a 12-volt converter, but then I got to thinking, well, if I'm using that L298N, that 12 is really down to 10.5. So I should have got a 13.5 volt converter or something, or one of those variable ones where you could modify it. And I just bought this little toy here, which is an N-line fuse thing, so that I can put that between the 12 volts and the battery thing.
Good choice.
The control.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
You always put them. Yeah, if you can put a fuse between the.
Yeah. These things that I plugged the batteries into, they actually have ones too, but they're going to be under things and hard to get to. So I wanted one that I could access. And truth to tell, with the ratings of the fuses I've got right now, the ones underneath are going to blow before the one outside anyway. But what are you going to do? It's always something. I can put different size fuses in that outside fuse. Maybe get it to blow first, or maybe I'll get lucky and none of them will ever blow.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a little slow. If I did this right, it's only 0.681 miles per hour.
Yeah, I wonder how fast I walk.
Usual walking speed at least 3 miles per hour.
Okay, so that's double walking speed.
Well, no, this is 0.6.
Oh, 0.6, not 6.
Yeah. So
That's a slow.
Yeah. See, I was worried about that. I could have gotten faster revolution motors, but they didn't seem to have the power that these have. I may have to just change the whole plan some. Who knows?
Well, you find out if they probably have this. If you can get them in the same form factor, it doesn't matter. You just get new ones.
Right.
But running at higher voltage will also bring you up probably 60. One revolution per second, and then you're going 12. If you're going 12 inches per second, that's probably pretty fast. For you might not want to go any faster than that.
Yeah, and I don't have to be walking at full speed because when I demonstrate it, it's going to be in a crowd on the street in Galveston, on the Strand with everybody walking around. I don't want it leaving me behind.
Yeah.
And later on, you're wandering around the house, and it's no hurry there.
Yeah.
You'll be good.
You'll be okay, I think. You'll just have to walk really super slow.
There you go. Saunter.
Yeah, saunter. Which is probably what you're going to want to do with your costume and everything anyway.
In the crowd.
Yeah. So it's slowly coming together. I'm somewhat champing at the bit to get it to where I can actually get it to roll, but then even though I'm anxious to do that, I'm not actually accomplishing it. So AKA lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I need to put a new tube in my laser cutter, and I keep putting it off because I really don't want to screw taking it out and putting a new one in. And but maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or the next day.
Yeah. That's
possibly the day after that. Yeah.
On the plus side, my robot killing dog is getting more used to robots rolling around.
You might.
Attacking all of them now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
he doesn't even care when the vacuum cleaner rolls around anymore, hardly. Gotten used to it.
Yeah. I remember when you first showed it to him, first robot showed him, he was going nuts.
Yeah, he was an attack dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
He still doesn't like Roby. I think Roby makes noises or something that he can hear. I can't.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to cut off, dudes.
Yeah.
It's
Time for me to
yeah. All right.
Past my bedtime here.